There's this belief that degree equates to success. It's so traditional and it is very outdated for what is really happening in the world right now. Anybody can code. If you're committed enough, you can learn. Every single role I've got in tech has been because I've followed up on LinkedIn, I've applied, found the hiring manager on LinkedIn, and I've said, just need one. And then they all start flowing because you don't act as desperate anymore. When you come to working in tech, you have to look at what you want from this role, how long term you want it to be, and if that company can provide that for you. If it's a startup, you're likely to have good money, good benefits, lots of fun, great trips, but it probably won't be long term. Also, you're a number. You are likely to work in a job at some point in tech where it isn't that meaningful. You can clock out at 5:30 and no one's going to die, but it's a con if you do go to work wanting to have purpose. I'm very poignant with my questions where I will say to somebody, how much do you get paid? What's the maternity benefits here? What's your private healthcare? I recommend everyone do that. When you're in your worst place of how am I going to pay my bills? This is so scary. Write down what
you're not defined by where you come from.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big message that I always want to tell people.
Like you have to be able to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
When you grow up in ends, you don't realise it when you're confident, but you have an audacity to do things that ordinarily most people wouldn't be willing to do.
Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. We have a special guest in the building. Maya, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Do you want me to look here or at you?
It's fine.
Wherever. Okay, cool.
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
You can look at the camera sometimes. You can
I'll
look
just
at me.
check
Like,
in
it's all good. Yeah.
Cool.
To be fair, most guests, when they have a conversation with me, they look
Yeah.
directly at me. Sometimes they want to say certain stuff. They
Yeah,
say.
it's weird being on the other end of it, innit? Because obviously I'm normally where you're sat.
Yeah.
With my guests. So it's like,
Are you nervous?
Not nervous, but it's just like, it's nice. You're doing all the work.
Yeah.
Where
That
normally
is
I'm the
true.
one doing all the work,
That is
thinking, oh,
true.
they've got keys in their hands. Are they going to jangle it? Are they going to say
Do
too
you have to
much?
think about that?
I do.
Why?
Because I don't know. I had a podcast before I had the one that I've got now before Maya's Minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So in that time, it was very much a learning process. So we did a lot of episodes and we did a lot of recording and we learned a lot and we had a lot of different guests. So you just pick up little things. And when I'm editing, I always listen out for when people say and and pause and little things that like, right, you know, everyone has their little things that get on them. So I'm always mindful of that with all my guests.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be now because I am the guest. So
Yeah.
it's really nice.
You hopefully you don't have any keys.
No, I don't. No, because I think maybe with girls as well, like a lot of girls have hanging bracelets.
Yeah.
So they'll be talking like that and then you'll hear the jingling.
That's a very good point.
And then sometimes they knock the microphone and they don't realise.
That's annoying.
Or a
I've done that a
phone
few
goes
times,
off or like bare stuff. So yeah, it's nice to not have to do that.
Yeah, crazy. So how's the start to New Year been for you?
It's actually been really good. I did a lot of, I journal a lot, as everybody does, I guess now. And I did a manifestation guide that, I don't know if you listen to the Closet Confessions podcast and you know Candy's bridesmaid.
I know.
Yeah. So I love everything she does. And I read her book on holiday and I'm a big stan for her. So she did this manifestation guide on her website for free, but she spoke about it on her podcast to direct everybody to the website. And so I went on there and downloaded it and sent it to like all my friends and I was like, everyone have a go at this and do it. And it's basically like, I don't know about if like journaling burnout is a thing, but I get that sometimes where I know I need to write what I'm feeling or what's going on for me, but I just don't know where to start. So I wouldn't mind a prompt. Do you know what I mean? So this thing that she made was a guide, and it's so smart because she's got another book coming out about manifesting because she's big on manifesting. So she's got a book coming out, so she's done the guide as like a warm up to the book. So I'm saying, that's why I love her. Anyway, so I did the guide, and it was really about like what do you want your 2024 to be, what do you want to manifest, and part of it was a lot of reflecting on 2023. And I realised that 2023, as far as years go, was actually a good one for me. I was actually happy with it, which is a rare feeling at the end of the year. And then for 20, most years I feel like I'm just like, oh mate, when is this over? Like that was a long one. But 2023, I was like, no, that was actually all right. So yeah, 2024 started well. I went on holiday in January, which I highly recommend.
Did that too?
because it just puts you in a good place.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel good. I feel ready for the year and good.
Amazing.
How about you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. The year's been good. Like I said as well. I just got back from holiday to Dubai about 2 weeks ago. I've never done a holiday in January.
Same. I'm going to be doing it again every year.
I think so. It's good. Was it warm weather?
Yeah. Like 28,
see,
28.
28 degrees.
And one day it hit 30. And I only went to Gran Canaria. And
I didn't know it gets that hot in Jan.
But you got to remember, even though Gran Canaria is Spain, it's actually like a Spanish island closer to North Africa.
Yeah, that's
so it's
true,
like Tunisia, that kind of way.
Okay.
So that's why it's always a good shout.
Yeah.
And I always go away around the end of the year, like November, December. But recently, or last year, I went away in May, which was brilliant because you come back and it's summer here.
Yeah.
So you're not depressed because you just come from sun and you come back to sun. And then I also went away in March once, and that was really good again for the same reason. And Jan's actually not bad because you come back and it's starting to feel a bit lighter. It's not as dark as early. So I'm not mad at it.
It's nice. So okay, for those, obviously watching and listening, who is Maya?
Maya is a complicated character. No. So I am a woman in tech. We love to hear it. Everyone loves that now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a woman in tech. I'm a podcaster. I'm a bit of I forget to say or mention that I'm a fitness person because it's just so normal to me. But because I used to be a personal trainer, I feel like that's why I probably forget.
Okay.
But yeah, fitness, activities, intentions, I feel like I live a very clean life. Like I don't drink, I don't do anything. Good. Yeah, but it's not for the reason of it being good. It's just that I live in a very clean way. There's no other way to put it. And 50 Cent speaks about it in his book actually. And when he said it, I was like, that's literally what it is. It's like he doesn't do it for any other reason than that's how he can operate at optimum. And that's literally the same reasons as me. Okay. I eat and don't drink and exercise and do all these things in a certain way so that I can be at the highest of my game. Okay. That's the only reason. I don't do it for animal rights or for religion or for any other reason than that. And I feel like sometimes people don't accept that as a reason and they always want to be like, but why? But why? And it's like, honestly, that's the reason.
That's a good enough reason though.
I think so.
Yeah.
But it gripes people.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that's admirable and it's a good reason. And I remember him saying that in his book, and I think that's the reason why he's, like you said, he's succeeded, right? Because
when you look, I was such a big person to read autobiographies and listen to autobiographies. I'm so on that. Yeah. It's a problem. And when you listen and read to that many, you realize there's a common theme with really successful people. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely one of the things. They will all live and eat and act and sleep and do all these things very ritualistically in a certain way. And that's part of their key. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that, because it is important. And to be fair, on the podcast we've had a few health conversations, so we can have a health, tech, and business conversation. It's gonna be interesting. But before we do that, I want to talk a bit about your story. I guess, where your parents from?
My mum's Punjabi and my dad's from Trinidad.
Okay.
My mum's Punjabi but born in Britain. At Coventry, to be precise.
Oh, mad.
Why is that mad?
Mad. No, because it's like, raw. You said Coventry, I'm like, what?
It is. It is, honestly. Yeah. So therefore, her perspective is quite uncommon and is quite, I don't want to say progressive as if other Punjabi mothers aren't, but from my experience and, the upbringing that I had is, I would say, quite unique in comparison. And I attribute a lot of that to the fact that she was born in Britain and this, she's a British woman and this is all she's ever known. Do you know what I mean? Whereas my dad was born in the Bahamas, from Trinidad, but born in the Bahamas and grew up in Trinidad and came here when he was a teenager. Yeah. So his perspective is and was always very different. Yeah. So upbringing wise, which you're probably gonna ask me next, I had a very, how to describe it, education and doing well was always a big focus from my parents, for me and my brother, but it was also not to the degree of other people that I've seen, if that makes sense, or
Okay.
other women who look like me, or other people that look like me, you would expect it to have been more than it was. But my parents' big thing about me was just like, do well, don't give us any trouble, and go to uni. And I did do
Don't
well.
give us any trouble.
I didn't give them any trouble, but
Okay.
I didn't go to uni. So
Yeah.
that was a big ruction.
That's crazy. So whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in East London.
East London.
And
okay,
then
cool.
but I don't know if that's mostly because for secondary school, I was in North London.
Okay.
So yeah, but I would say like growing up I would say I did grow up in East London
Yeah.
because my foundational perspectives on everything were born there. And
Yeah.
that's where
I guess what do you think you learned?
Exactly. That's where I would say. And then in North London, when I was doing secondary school, it was like my perspective was very different to those who had been born and brought up there. Not like it's a different country, but it was very different from Leighton.
What do you feel like was different about it?
Just a lot people in when I went to school had a lot more privilege than those I went to primary school with, for example. And just like the hustle and hunger was not the same. And also like the community, like
Do you think the hustle and hunger wasn't the same in North London? Like it wasn't as
I didn't go, you're thinking North London like Tottenham or Woodgreen.
of course,
I'm talking Barnet.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So
Barnet, okay.
that's a very
I don't know much about
different-
Barnet, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
okay.
Not to diss people from Barnet,
Barnet,
but
yeah.
in comparison to Leighton, where people didn't have much but did a lot,
Yeah.
it was a big change for me.
Okay.
And the other massive factor is obviously in East London, like wide, but particularly in Leighton, for example, there are very minimal white people. Like you were a minority if you're white, whereas in Barnet or other parts of parts of North London, there are mainly white people. That's the predominant race. So that was a massive shift and change as well.
Okay.
And that obviously, shone light on a lot of things. I feel like the first understanding I ever had of racism was when we moved to North London. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was before then because it didn't exist.
Yeah,
like, there was nobody
that
would be racist.
That's
because-
true. I do get what you're saying when you say that. That is a very interesting point. Actually, when you think about it, if you do grow up like, because is more than likely maybe you're not. Weren't you traveling at that point as well?
Nah, not
Okay.
really. I would go on like family holidays.
Yeah.
But you're not seeing it as a kid.
Yeah, there's no.
And even if you are, like you go, like your norm is what you grow up with every day. When you wake up, brush your teeth, go outside, you see people who look everything.
Yeah.
So you're not thinking that. But funnily enough, I had a reunion with my primary school people, and we were talking about this. All of us, we were saying like how mad it is when you go out of like your world and you realize there's race. Like we didn't know because obviously primary school was such a mixed place, and someone said that there's actually a statistic that our particular, I don't want to say our school, but the area we grew up in is like one of the most diverse places in like the UK or something really like out. So that would make sense as to why it was so weird for us.
Yeah.
But
at least you got both perspectives and you got to
Absolutely.
live, like you said, you got to see the hunger and that probably was within you as
100%,
well.
100%.
To be able to work a bit harder, like in another environment, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And also like the privileges going to school in that kind of area afforded me, that's not lost on me either. Do you know what I mean? Like I was in an environment with people.
It's a really good school.
I
Don't you
mean,
making it sound
it
like
wasn't, for North London, no.
Yeah.
But like I said, from what the
compared
school
to-
would have been for me if
Oh,
we'd have
ease.
stayed there,
Okay.
then yes. Like the fact that everybody had a laptop
Yeah.
was like, what? Like, do you know what I mean? My
Everybody
primary-
had a laptop.
Yeah, like stuff like that. But you think that's like up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, cool.
I
But
didn't
that's
have
what
no
I'm saying. I
laptop
thought
at-
that as
I
well.
didn't have no
I
laptop
thought that
at
as
secondary
well.
school.
I thought that as well.
A laptop at secondary school. I don't even know if
I mean, I don't
kids
think
get
we
that
had
now,
a-
did they?
No, we didn't get. It's not like you could have one to take home,
Okay.
but like when you were working on stuff,
Yeah.
there
Okay,
were like
fair.
laptops available. It weren't Macs. But
yeah.
like,
Okay, cool.
the fact there was
Imagine that.
one,
Imagine it
or
was
like
that,
to
so
be
funny.
a bigger one than that was like there was a
Yeah.
swimming pool in my school,
Okay. Oh yeah, that's a good school.
and there were grounds.
I don't know if
everywhere.
I know anybody that had a swimming pool in their school. Yeah, that's
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, and like that,
Okay.
that wasn't even a possibility in
Yeah.
the schools I would have been going to if we'd
Ah.
have been in East London. And like there were grounds.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's
Like tennis
crazy.
courts, not tennis, sorry, netball courts, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, so that was mad to me.
Cool. So what was your favorite subject at school? that time?
So like we're talking like GCSE kind of age, you talk like A-level age. Like I loved sociology.
Okay.
I really loved drama. I got A star in GCSE drama,
Okay.
and I really wanted to take it forward, but obviously I was like, nah, it's not going to make me any money. Ethnic home, do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Which I was like, no, that's not going to be. I think that's a shared thing that a lot of us feel. It's not going to be encouraged. Do you know what I mean?
You have to really love it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I didn't even go uni, and I became a personal trainer. So I probably could have done drama at A-level and it would have been all right.
That's what that's like, that brings me to that question. Like, what happened there? Because obviously you're saying, you're not going to be actor, but then you decide.
Yeah. And I did really academic A-levels as well. I did maths, physics, Spanish, sociology.
That's really academic. So what happened? Like, what was the
really
plan actually?
Done. If I'm honest, I didn't tell my parents I wasn't going to go. I said I was going to do a gap year. But I had zero intention of going. Like, I knew I was not going.
Why?
Because there was nothing about uni at the time that was attractive to me.
Okay.
Like I said, because I feel like, both my parents were very liberal with me growing up, I was allowed to do anything I wanted.
Okay.
I could go out, I could go to parties, I could be with my friends, I could do anything.
Okay.
So I didn't need to go to uni to do that. I didn't feel like I was going to learn much there, considering we already knew people who'd gone, and they didn't appear to me like they were doing much learning. It was way more partying and like that. Okay. And like I said, that didn't appeal to me. So I was like, so then what would be the point of me
uni
going?
was just vibes and partying.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the time, I was just, and also I think because of the subjects I did being so academic, I was so done with studying. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to get to making money now because this is getting very long. And I think, like they speak about, there's like a few moments people have with teachers where they can like make or break you. I didn't do very well in my first year of A-levels. In my ASs, I did really badly. And lots of people did, because we didn't understand that it wasn't just like, I think if you're naturally quite smart, you can get through GCSEs without doing much work. And that was like me and a lot of my mates. And then for A-levels though, it's not that. You need to be smart, and you also need to be focused and doing your homework and studying, and we weren't doing that. So I didn't do well, and a lot of people didn't do well in their ASs. And then it was like really surprising. And so because of that, I really knuckled down in doing my A-levels. But I had a conversation with one of my teachers, and I don't think she was a teacher, I think she was a careers guidance woman, and she basically said, if you haven't done well in A-levels, I don't think that academia is for you. And if A-levels aren't for you, then I don't really think uni's for you.
Say that to somebody, a student.
Yeah, I know. Of course you can't.
That's not
really unhelpful.
Even if you think that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, like, even if I didn't want to go uni, I definitely am not going now. Yeah. You just told me I can't do it.
Why are you killing dreams? Some teachers, man, I don't know, career coordinator, whatever. Why are you being a dream killer? At the end of the day is my question.
Yeah. And our school was very much geared towards like people going uni. There wasn't any conversation about apprenticeships or internships or anything outside of that trajectory. And I think that's a real shame, because I think so many people are better suited doing things earlier than going to uni and spending 3 to 5 years doing more studying, especially if you weren't the best at studying in the first place. Go into uni accruing that much debt, and in a way as well, like, our uni experience, if I'm honest, is never going to be what our parents or older siblings' experiences was, because we're in a cost of living crisis and have been since I can remember now. So we're not going to get that. So this, like, when my parents were obviously vexed with me, and like they were like, why don't you want to go uni? It's the best time ever, like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but it was for you, because everything cost £1 and you just lived your best life. And like you got like a grant. You got a grant on top of everything else, and everything was way cheaper. We're not living in those times. So you advocating, and this I think it's really harmful that this message, I don't know if it still happens in schools now, because obviously I left school how long ago, but this message that uni's the only thing and that's it, I'm really against that, because that's just not true. And I feel like people are learning that more now. But it is a shame for a lot of people in my generation that didn't hear that message and didn't have that option, or weren't bold enough to make that. Because trust me, it wasn't an option presented to me. Nobody was behind that choice for me. But you have to be bold to go and take that choice, and not a lot of people did. And I do feel like now, if they could redo things, they probably would.
Yeah, 100%. I've worked, I think I might have said on the podcast a few times, I don't know if I have, but I've had a mentee at my last company who went through an apprenticeship. I've worked with people who didn't have the degrees and in the tech world. And as we'll reveal with your story as well, it is possible. There are other journeys, but like you said, I think, I don't know if it's happening so much now. I think more and more apprenticeships are out there, which is good. They're advocating for that. I think they're trying to do it across all industries. And more people now realize, even now, like uni, when I went to uni, I don't want to ruin my age. It's still, the price wasn't still that bad. Now it almost don't make no sense unless you're going to very prescribed stuff like maybe law or, being a doctor. If you're going to do, like, no offense, like history degree and you don't see no use in it, you've kind of get yourself in 60,000-70,000 pound debt to do a history degree just to go and do what, I don't know, some other graduate program.
But it's so linked to this mentality that so sadly so many of us, and when I say us, I mean ethnic people, hold, where there's this belief that degree equates to success.
100%.
And that it seeps into so much of education, and like, oh, it's not, no, you can't just go to school, you need to go private school, and you can't just go private school, you need to get a degree, and you can't just take a degree, you need to, and it's like, it's so traditional, and it is very outdated for what is really happening in the world right now. And I do feel like, whilst I completely empathize when you come from a certain background and certain homes where that is the only thing being discussed and the only option you have, because I got a lot of people where I'd have this conversation with people like around the time when I didn't go uni and not long after that, sorry. If I was speaking to a fellow brother or sister, they would be like, oh yeah, but that wasn't an option for me. Either I go uni or I get kicked out. Yeah, it was a waste of time, but if I don't go uni, that won't happen. And it's like, yeah, but it wasn't an easy option for me to do that. I wasn't congratulated. I wasn't like encouraged. My parents didn't make it easy for me, but I still knew I'm the one who has to sit in these lectures, accrue this debt, pay off so they could be happy and tell their friends that my daughter's got a degree. Or show the picture. Not in a bad way. And I know, and you have to also make peace with the fact that, like, you are going to disappoint your parents if you don't go. That's it. Like, my mum, she loves me to bits and she loves what I've done and she's proud, but nothing will make her prouder than if she had the picture of me with the hat. That's literally it.
That's like one of their proudest days, And look, that's not to say that if, you see, the thing about what the conversation we're having, we're just saying have a choice and make sure you understand your choice. And it's not like pushed down from your parents. Your parents saying you have to go to uni. It's a decision you've made for yourself.
And if you want to go, 100%.
Do it.
But it's this thing where if you want to go, please be completely aware of the whole story. Because there's a lot of small print. And that isn't spoken about.
A lot of small print, Yeah, the huge debt is the biggest small print on. So I guess, how did you get into, like, becoming a personal trainer? Like, why was that like kind of the route?
So, like I said, I always wanted to make money. So I got a job when I was 16 as a lifeguard. And I don't know why. I was thinking about this before I came. But I don't know why I knew that to make money, you needed to spend money. I just always knew that. I think it must be because I grew up watching my mum be very like that. She was in a career where she could get a job very easily. She's an occupational therapist and a psychotherapist, so she can get jobs really easily. She's constantly retraining, constantly learning more things, constantly spending money on courses as if it's nothing. Good, So I grew up seeing that. So I just thought, course, no problem, I'll do that. I'll get a job from it and I'll make the money back, no problem. So I did lifeguarding course, got a job in a like good gym chain. And from there I used to look up and see personal trainers, and I was just like, I could do that. And that was it. That's how I thought about it, which was really naive, because obviously I became one, and I will tell you the reality. But that was, honestly, I wish there was more, like, I loved fitness. This not. It's like I looked up and I was like,
it doesn't have to always be a sexy story. I don't know why people, you know what, when you see somebody's bio and they try and make it sexy, you're like, come on now. It's a lot of stuff is Disney fairy tale. It's not actually, it's not like that. So I appreciate you being honest about it. Sorry about that. Like, I'm drinking water while I'm about to ask you the question. So I guess, obviously, you went into, becoming a personal trainer. and you felt like you were going to make money, but then you specialize as well. What was that like reason for specializing?
For the money, really. So as soon as I started, and this is the thing as well, speaking to you now in 2024 about personal training is very different to when I did it.
Okay.
I did it when I was 19, so like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a very different landscape. You didn't see women in the gym the way that you see them now. You didn't have all these brands of clothes for gym specifically for women. That didn't exist. You didn't have women lifting. You didn't have women wanting to get a bigger bum. These things weren't happening. The only reason women would go to gym at the time was to get skinny. And the only thing women would do in the gym at the time was go on the treadmill.
Yeah.
Very, very rare to do anything else. And even down to the like real nitty gritty of the area that you live in, the only place women were really going gym were gyms in central London, because women were working in these areas and then they were seeing these classes, these things, and they might from the class be like, oh, why don't I go into the gym floor? And oh, why don't I get a personal trainer? This was happening. So it's like when I see now people who live even in the UK but in really like far places in the UK or in outside of London or whatever, don't get me wrong, Barnet was bordering outside of the UK. Like people are not going to understand in the same way that they did when I was like in London. It was just a complete difference. Like I would literally go on the tube from Barnet to Angel where I worked, and you would see the difference in terms of how people were treating fitness. And like you'd get like as you get closer to Angel, everyone would be in gym gear before work starts, ready to go straight to the gym and whatever. Nobody was doing that in like the outskirts of London, because that's not a dumb thing. Like, you just don't make sense. Like my dad, for the life of him, still to this day, cannot understand why a person would pay to get a personal trainer. He thinks you're stupid if you do that. That's honestly, that's how he sees it. And that's not an uncommon perspective for a lot of our parents. So I say all this to say, if you are going to be a personal trainer in such a saturated environment as it is now, way more saturated than when I was there, and it was saturated then you need to think about all of the logistics that happen. You're not going to be successful if you're just going to stick to one environment, think you're going to make it there. Yeah, things have changed now where almost every woman I know, regardless of if she's like a stay-at-home mum, works in the city, works at home, whatever she does, she probably wants to go to the gym or get comfortable in the gym environment, which is really good. And I'm so happy about that. However, you have to take into account the logistics of where you're doing things, even on a geographical level. And then if you're working in a gym, this gym, how does it make money? Does it make money from swimming lessons? Does it make money from tennis lessons it has or courts? Does it make money from the fact that there's a spa here? How does it make money? And then situate yourself in that place. Because that was what I did. I looked at it and I was like, okay, like I said, I worked for a big brand. So I worked at one, I don't really want to say. I can, but I'm not.
Okay, you don't have to say that, the brand.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that, but it was a big one, and it was
I
like
think we can
elite.
imagine.
Yeah, think of the ones that you know that are
like more expensive.
Yes, that wellness center level of like spa, jacuzzi, steam room, whatever. And there's bare of them all across the country.
Probably have.
Whatever one you're thinking of is probably that. And I worked in the one in Mill Hill.
Okay.
But they made their most money from swimming lessons because it's like a family club. So I moved to the one in Angel, and that one makes their most of their income from personal training. So already I was like, okay, this is where I need to be. They also have a lack of women there at the time, women personal trainers. So you're going to stand out that way as well. And I had to like feel out. This is why I said all my learning came from that experience. It was hard graft. I was up at 5 a.m. because obviously I lived in the other end of the Northern Line. I need to be ready for your clients coming in at 6 before they have their first meeting or whatever, because these lot work from like early doors, corporate bankers, whatever they might be. And then you're going to be back to back until lunchtime. And then at lunchtime, you're going to have your lunchtime crew. And then after lunch, you're going to have a lull until you have your evening crew. And it's all about how much hours you're willing to put in. And if you aren't ready to go up to somebody, interrupt them with whatever they're doing, make them take their headphone out and say, would you like some personal training? You're not going to make any money. And that's the thing. It's not a measure of how good you are at how well you know your body, how well you know anatomy and physiology and nutrition. And it's not a measure of that. It's a measure of how confident you are and how well can you sell. And so that brings me to why I decided to specialize, because in that environment, there's always going to be someone better than you that's selling, but you need to stand out and you need to have a niche.
Okay.
And that was a massive niche for me, and it worked really well.
Yeah.
So I was really successful. When I say successful, you would look at success now with personal training as what's your Instagram like following and what's your TikTok and what's your content.
Yeah.
But what if you're really in the personal training world? The success comes from how much money are you making, and how many clients do you have that are consistent and will follow you wherever you go. And I was doing well on that front. And this was again before Instagram really kicked off. So I was privy to a lot of business knowledge, I would say, because I was training some of the most successful people you would ever come across. I would have come across at 19. I would never have met these people. Do you know what I mean? I'm friends with some of them to this day still.
Okay, wow.
And that got me really aware of a lot of things really soon. Even talking about things like finances and investing, all of them, it's not a question about have they got a LISA, an ISA, a finance guide. That's like a given with them. They've all got, pensions that are really accumulate, that 4 or 5 that accumulate, and their personal one and their private one. And just so many things that you aren't in the rooms to know until you're around people who know. Yeah. And and I got a lot of exposure to things I would never have had exposure to.
Yeah. How do you feel like you grew from that? Because you were saying that obviously you had to, as a personal trainer, especially, it sounds like what you were talking about was it's more about doing some of the more important business, let's say business aspects of it, right? Selling to people, convincing somebody in a certain way, right?
Connecting, building that rapport.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you feel like you grew, I guess?
It made me really good at that. I'm really good at that.
Okay. Do you feel like you were good at it at the start?
I had a personality where I could speak to anybody. Okay. But it made me understand how to be strategic with that. Okay. And it made me know very early how important the power of being on your A game is. And that's what I think, like, of all of the industries and of all of the first jobs and first careers and first things a person can have, I think personal training in that way, in that environment, is a really good one. I feel like you're going to get a lot out of it in terms of life experience and exposure. And so, I think like it taught me the power of being able to advocate for yourself, being able to talk about how good you are, which is something that people find really uncomfortable.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
And that I can do that really easily. Okay. I don't, because it obviously upsets people, but I could if I needed to.
To them, because you have to sell yourself,
absolutely.
Right? Like, why can I?
And even in the field that I'm in now, which we'll probably get onto, it's a massive skill because in tech, people typically that work in tech are people who are more introverted and they are people that struggle to shout about their achievements, especially women, and ask for a pay rise and say why you deserve this. I can do that very easily, too easily sometimes. And I have that skill because of what I had to do with personal training. And also I think the other aspect as well is like hard graft, like physical. You need to be in shape. You need to be disciplined. You need to look good, and you need to be fit, and you need to be your own brand, and you need to always think about that. You need to know that you have eyes on you, watching what you do and stuff. It's important to have exposure to that. And also know how to have a boundary with that, because you could let that run your whole life and then you have no joy in life, as some personal trainers do at some point. But you need to have a boundary with that and get comfortable with knowing and
I respect it. And I respect the fact that you said that you have to be fit, because I've seen, honestly, I think that's one of the most important things. Like, how are you going to train somebody and you're not
your own
following
advert.
Your advice, right? Especially it's a physical thing, right? It's a physical thing. You're going to say to somebody, look, I know how to get you from X to Y. And then they look at you be like, what?
And I do think that is due to the fact that there is like personal training is such an accessible career to go into.
Yeah. Was it that accessible back then as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say it was more accessible then because there were less people doing it. I was of the wave of like, we need more of you. So hurry up and let us get you in kind of thing. Whereas now you aren't going to be brought in as easily, but the standard for you is even higher. Yeah. But you could also go online and get it a bit easier.
Yeah.
It's like a new, literally, exactly. So it's like a new it's a new world that we are entering, but it doesn't mean that there aren't also rules here.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the currency now is about how big is your following, how big is your presence. I didn't have to worry about any of that when I was a personal trainer.
That's crazy.
I was
right?
making real
when you
money.
Think about that.
And I didn't know. Obviously it helped.
Yeah.
I was lucky again, it was a new, like none of the personal trainers I worked with had Instagram. They would laugh at me because I would make content and they'd be like, oh, like your lunch today, did you? Because I'd put a story, because it was at a time when it was weird. It was weird to have Instagram.
Yeah.
Like it was still weird to post a picture of yourself. It was like a bit clouty. Do you know what I mean? That was the time. Like
now, if you don't have that,
exactly,
you might not even get a business.
Exactly.
Honestly.
So that's why it was a blessing because nobody was doing it, so I stood out, and a curse because none of your current people understood what you were doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if I look back at some of the views I would get on my old videos, I would get like 30,000 views on some old videos that had no edit, no nothing. Like I'm talking over the whole thing, like because it was so new to everyone. They were like, "What?
Yeah.
Wow!"
Yeah.
So yeah, there was basically, I say that to say that there are always new rules of where you are and what you're doing, and you just have to learn what they are, and then you can manipulate it to do what you want it to do.
Yeah. So what happened? Why did you decide to leave?
Oh
that?
yes, it was
happened
great, but also it's what's your definition of well? Like I said, what's
your definition?
My definition of well.
I mean, you said you were successful, so that's what I'm
successful with money and getting what I needed to from the industry.
Yeah.
But it came to a point where you're only going to get to that next level of, let's call it better income or residual income, if you are willing to make content, fitness content regularly in a certain way, looking a certain way 100% of the time. And I will be the first to hold my hands up and say, as a woman, it is bordering dangerous to look cut and fit and not fit, but to look cut and have abs coming through 100% of the time, because like we have periods, we have fluctuating weight, we have so many things going on with our body that you're just not going to have a good quality of life if that's your whole focus. Like you think like going out to eat and like drinking or not getting enough sleep, training every day, it's a massive undertaking for you and your body, your mental, your physical, and your everything. So it got to a point with how things were, unless you're going to do that, Maya, this is never going to get you to where you want it to get you.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I was at a stage where I wanted to get a mortgage, and I was in a unique position because, like I said, unlike most of my peers, I hadn't gone to uni, so I'm not in debt. I have been working since I was 18, so I have got money. I've lived at home. Like I'm in a good position here. But if I carry on with personal training, it's going to be very hard for me to get a mortgage because it's not counted in the same way as having a 9-to-5 is. Yeah. It's a lot harder, as you'll know, to prove your income if you're self-employed. So I was like, what can I do? I need to do something else now. I need to do a 9-to-5, but that terrifies me because I've never done a 9-to-5.
Yeah.
And I'm 23. Like I've never done a 9-to-5 at this point. I've only had life experience of self-employed, like active working, not in front of a desk kind of job. I don't understand like what all these like office politics things you're talking about are. It don't make sense to me, and like not being able to go on holiday when I want to go on, like I don't understand that. So it was all like, what can I do that's going to give me the most benefits? What industry can I get into now that I'm going to do well in? What are the rules here? And I was like, tech. So I did a course, a boot camp course where I did 3 different projects within the course to showcase your skills of coding. So I learned to code, HTML, CSS, Python, JavaScript. I did a bit of SQL. These are all like coding languages, by the way.
These are buzzwords now.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm sure most people have heard of.
Yeah,
of,
exactly.
of
That's not
it,
even that impressive. Like a couple years ago, people were like, "Wow, nobody even flinches." Now. And I was like, "Yeah." And what was your last? What's your GitHub? That's what so yeah, learned all of that, and then got my first role. And I realized on the course that I can code, and I, like I said to you before, like I think that anybody can code if you're committed enough. You can learn. But it's about what suits your personality best. And for me, I was much more suited in the translation, solution-focused analysis area. And that's what's led me to becoming like on the journey of becoming a solution architect. So yeah, I got my first role as a like in the kind of business analyst space.
Okay.
Then my
Business analyst,
then my second role was like a technical analyst.
Okay.
And now I'm
Ooh.
technical architect.
Interesting.
And next will be solution architect.
Okay.
And
That's a
where I wanted to
crazy
be.
trajectory.
Mm.
And I'll break it down. If like I'm sure some people within a tech world, they understand what we're talking about. But actually, I just want to go back around a little bit and just break down something. So obviously, you said that you did the boot camp, right? You did all this model. Are you comfortable saying how much you paid?
Yeah,
you care?
$6,000.
Okay. You paid $6,000. Okay, cool. And it sounded like you got. I guess my question is, the first job, how did you do it? Because that's what people want to know.
Yeah.
How did you get that first job between the boot camp and because that's the gap, right? For most people, they're like, okay, I want to get into the tech industry. There's all this, and we'll talk about like what can people do today to get into it. But like, I guess, how did Maya do it?
So remember I said that when I became a personal trainer, I got really good. You said, what did you grow from personal training? And I said, I got really good at being very strategic with my connections with people. So I leveraged that skill when I entered tech. I was like, this is a brand new industry. I don't know anyone here.
Yeah.
I don't know how things work here. In fitness, to this day, fitness people watching will tell you, if you've been in the game long enough, you can get a job very easily. Someone will be needing classes taught over there and you'll know someone who works there, or you worked with somebody once at somewhere and you covered a class together. And so it becomes a small community, especially in London, where you've got a friend for somebody, for anything, and you can get a job quickly and easily. I knew I needed to replicate that in tech. And I think everyone should know or should aim to replicate that in whatever field you're in. You should always be able to get a job quickly in your field. I think that's a good way to live personally. So I was like, what can I, like you said, exactly, what skills do you have from personal training that you can use here? Chatting. I know how to chat to people. I know how to make friends. I know how to network. I can do that really well. So I got on LinkedIn and made my LinkedIn look good. And something that was really good about this course, because probably people are probably thinking nowadays, in today's climate, you can learn how to code for free on YouTube. Why did you pay that money? I was a novice to tech and I had no idea. And again, think back, this is pre-pandemic. This is like 5 years ago, probably. Yeah. How old am I now? Yeah, 5 years ago. These things weren't as accessible in the way they are now. So even though I probably at that point still could have got something for much cheaper, you wouldn't have got the standard of what I needed to get me a role. I knew I need a job here. It's not like, I remember I was earning real money as a personal trainer as well. So I need something that's going to match that, and I need everything else that comes with it. So I'm not trying to do like the starter job and whatever. I want to go straight in at like a respectable level. I wasn't going to get that from a free bootcamp course. And I think this is an important thing. Whilst these things are available now, you've got to look at what your needs are. How do you personally learn and what is on offer here? Yeah. And I knew I need hand-holding in this. I don't know anything here. I need to have something that's going to regularly check my skills, the projects. I need mentoring. They gave me mentoring. I need a community, people I can message when I'm having a problem. They give you that. And I got all my needs met in that. So that's why the $6,000 made sense for me. And I had it because I've been working for so long, so it wasn't a problem for me. So your question was, how did I get the first job? I joined all the networking events I could find. Okay. I got my LinkedIn in a good shape. I joined a group called Coding Black Females, which has been a massive help for me throughout my entire tech career. And that helped. And my first job came from someone posting in the group saying, is anybody looking? I was desperately looking for jobs. And I say desperate, it was a 2 weeks of my life where I was like, oh my God, I really need a job. But for me, who's always had a job quickly in that industry, that was like, I was like, what's going on? I don't know how to function here. And it wasn't even that I had money rolling in. It was more like, I always feel safe that I can do this because all it matters is on me talking about myself and proving in front of you that I know what I'm doing. I can teach a class or I can train someone. I can show you that. I can't show you that with this tech thing yet. I'm not there. So like I need a bring-in basically. And someone posted in the group saying, is anyone looking for, my company's hiring. Another massive point to remember with tech roles and anybody getting into tech, people who are working for companies, the company gives that person a finder's fee if you are
referral
successful.
Fee,
So they are happy to chat to you. I tell everybody, everyone always says to me, how did you get into tech? Blah, 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 blah. Message people on LinkedIn. Why are people scared to do that? Message people on LinkedIn.
People are so scared.
Message someone on LinkedIn.
Do you know how many people I've told to do it?
I seen the role.
Yeah.
That looks good to me. Do you mind having a coffee? Can we have a chat about it? And whatever. Every single role I've got in tech has been because I've followed up on LinkedIn. I've applied and then I've found the hiring manager on LinkedIn and I've said, hello, my name's Maya. They've seen my LinkedIn profile, which looks good. And I'm like, I've just sent an application across just so you can put a face to the name to the face to the name. And every single time that has done me so many favors because it shows such initiative from you. It shows confidence and they can put a face to the name. So they're like, oh, okay, yeah, she's the one who messaged us. Or even if you want to get down to like tick boxing tokenism, there's that brown girl. That'll look good for us.
Yeah.
Let's hire her.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And again, I have no problem with people doing that. I think you should do that. Why shouldn't we be in these spaces? Like if it's gonna be reverse discrimination or whatever, I'm with it. So yeah, like that's
100.
That's literally
man.
it. I just think that that's how I got my first job.
Okay.
I saw,
That's
and I'm not
amazing.
saying that was the only reason.
Yeah.
You have to be good, and you have
Yeah.
to know, and you have to prepare, and you have to take this seriously.
Yeah.
And I did, and I had to do a my first job was their first interview, a practical, a test.
Okay.
You know, tech roles, like there's
Yeah,
like 6 stages.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this was like, again, new for me. And
Yeah.
every single one I prepared for, I checked, I tested. You do the work, obviously. But that first bring in, even if you're not successful, what it will do for your confidence to just even get an interview.
Yeah.
Go for interviews. Even if you don't want the job, go for the experience. And then you can say, oh yeah, I interviewed with blah, blah, blah. And you don't know what that will do for you. Like, it's all about just putting yourself out there is the best thing. But yeah, so that was my first role.
Okay.
And then the second role, started looking, putting out emails, rejection. Like, another massive thing. If you're doing mass applications, put a spreadsheet together of the companies that you've contacted, the contact that you've got there, and the verdict and how quickly they got back to you, because you never know when you're going to need that spreadsheet of contacts again, especially in tech. So started doing that, loads of rejections, and then suddenly I got one like positive, we want you for an interview, and then I got like 6 positives. You just need one, honestly. And then they all start flowing, and they start flowing because you don't act as desperate anymore. And you're just confident and you're riding that, and then you start getting all the offers, and it's great. So yeah, that was how the second one came. No bring in, just from me putting
you
out
had the experience already, right?
had experience, but put out the email, applied, followed up on LinkedIn. Hi, my name's Maya. I just sent an application.
Do the LinkedIn thing.
And
That is
then,
a gem,
do you not do
man.
the LinkedIn?
No.
Okay.
Wow. I've not had to.
I'm looking at these lot. As if
I've not had
I
to.
need
So
tell
I've
you.
been fortunate.
Yeah. No, but you.
But I think I might look into that. That's a gem. I can't lie.
100%.
That's a gem. Yeah.
And I'm very poignant with my questions as well, where I will say to somebody, how much do you get paid? If we're going for the role, I'll say, how much
For
do you
real?
want? Yes.
I
Because
love it.
otherwise,
Yeah.
you continue this thing, especially as a woman. There is a gender pay gap. Women are paid less than men in a lot of fields, and in tech it happens.
In tech, it does. It's still
So it's a massive thing, and men love to say, "Oh, but there are some fields where." We're not talking about those. We're talking about the majority, where the fields are men earning more than women for no reason other than the fact that you're a man. We also have women likely at some point potentially want to have a child. What's the maternity benefits here? We all want to have good healthcare. What's your benefit? What's your private healthcare? Are you doing this? You do ask these questions, and don't be scared to ask them. I don't know why like that's a bad thing to do, but you need to know these things before you go into somewhere and you don't have the knowledge, and then you're looking around thinking, oh, why am I still here after 3 years and I've got nothing for it? And someone's over there who's just done a course, messaging the group chat, and she's like, do you know what I mean?
It's true. No, it's true, because a lot of people are going to be listening to this like, what? You ain't got a tech degree. You ain't got no tech degree. Like, how did you do this? Like, and they probably got maybe tech degree, and they're like, what's going on here?
Honestly, confidence. I would say whatever you're going to spend money on next, whether it be a holiday, going out, doing this, whatever, invest in whatever you need to do to make you feel strong enough to send about 10 LinkedIn messages. That'll be money spent better than anything else. Because when you're not afraid to do that, I've got friends now who are still scared to do that, and they're big in their tech careers.
They're scared.
I should
What's gonna
ask you,
happen?
why don't you do the LinkedIn
I
thing?
don't do it because I didn't think of it.
Okay.
But I've had people come up to me And I've also advised people to do it as well, to like, okay, if you want to go into this industry, do it. Because I've said, look, I've had a lot of people come up to me and I've always been nice to them and said, yeah,
Oh, so you're not scared? You wouldn't be scared?
No, I'm not scared to. I've just never thought of it.
Oh, fine.
I've never, you know what? Yeah. I don't use LinkedIn the way.
You should use LinkedIn.
Yeah. Like, I should be using LinkedIn like how I use Instagram.
Yeah, yes.
But I've never really thought of it. I know some people really
Someone
do.
gave me some massively good advice early doors.
Yeah.
And they said to me, are you on LinkedIn? This was when I was a personal trainer. And I was like, nah, it's not really for me. Like, I'm a personal trainer. Like, why does it? And they were like, this is the biggest problem with your generation. You are looking for jobs. You're trying to get, and I was at the time getting personal training from professional people. Why aren't you where the professional people are?
Right, yeah, that's a good question.
And it's the same for
LinkedIn, isn't it?
Literally, they're not on Instagram.
Yeah.
They're not on those lives.
Yeah.
They're there, and that's why. And on Snapchat, it baffles me. People our age have Snapchat, but you don't have LinkedIn.
Yeah. You gotta have LinkedIn. LinkedIn is crazy.
But you don't. It's not enough to have LinkedIn anymore.
Yeah.
You gotta use it.
You gotta use it.
So yeah, the second role was like that, and then like I said, I was very poignant with questions and very bullish with my demands because I was confident, too confident, and I got humbled, and I had to learn that. Okay,
How did you get humbled? Like what?
Because I got made redundant.
Second role.
Okay. And that was a massive hit to my confidence. And that is something that happens very, very regularly in the tech industry. It's a very fast-paced,
which we'll talk about.
thing.
Yeah, there's been more layoffs this year. I talked about it in a few episodes ago for 2023. There's a lot. It's already started this year too. Yeah.
Well, we can talk about it now. Let's go straight into it now.
No. I wanted to hear you.
Okay, fine. All right.
Because I was gonna ask you some questions about it.
Okay, cool. So basically, when you come to working in tech, you have to look at, this is all new information I've learned now, by the way, from my experience, that you have to look at what you want from this role, how long term you want it to be, and if that company, not the role, the company can provide that for you. Is it a startup? If it's a startup, you're likely to have good money, good benefits, lots of fun, great trips, but it probably won't be long term because the money's going to run out, or they're going to get acquired and there's going to be a restructure, something's going to happen. You're probably not going to live that life for long, but live that life while it lasts, and don't think it's going to be a long-term thing. So if you're in a stage where you are maybe wanting to start having a family or start getting pregnant, maybe a startup, although it's going to give you the most money and all those things, isn't the best if maternity pay is important to you. If it's not, live your life, babe. But if it is, bear that in mind. Big companies are great. You will get benefits. You won't get as much money as you would in a startup or those other places, but you'll get benefits. You'll have access to a lot of different trainings to upskill. You'll get lots of like company experience, and that's important. Having a company's name on your CV gets you a long way. And there's people there who would have gone and done all the startup life and this life and that life, and then they've landed in this long stint at a company, so they're going to be full of wisdom and a lot of knowledge. However, the big companies, you are going to be a cog in a massive wheel, so it will be harder for you to stand out. It will be harder for you to get a promotion, maybe. It will be harder to do things that were easier to do in smaller companies. But again, that's about the phase of life that you're in. If you're in a stage where you have maybe got some kids at this point, or want to start having kids, or you want to just take things easy and focus on a side business or whatever, maybe a big company is for you, because right now you're going to get a decent income, you're going to get everything that you need met, and it's just going to be a bit of a slower pace. And if you really want to shine, then it will be harder to do so here, but it's not impossible. Big company. And then you've got the middle ground. And the middle ground, I would say, is probably the scariest place to be, because you don't know what's going to happen. They look like a startup, but they sound like a big company. And so that's where you'll have your problem, where you might not see it coming, and you might get like 10 layoffs one week, and you'll be like, what? I thought we were good. Like, what's happened here? So that's been my knowledge of that I've learned so far in my very small tech career. Although very filled with lots of things, as you can hear. And I would recommend just always thinking, when you're going to start a role, what is my phase that I'm in right now, and what job suits that best? That's what I'd say.
How did you bounce back from it like that? Like, how did you do that? Because you got your next gig was great. It's a great gig. Solution on the track to solution
No,
architect?
no. That was not my next gig.
That wasn't?
The gig I'm in now is that.
Okay.
But that gig was I thought that I was broken at the time. That was a technical analyst gig. And I was so broken because I had been, this is like what I'm saying about these like startup kind of companies, you become a big fish very quickly. And I was a rock star there. Like everyone appreciated what I did. Internally, I was revered. Everything was great. But it was just that the company's not making money. So if they're not making money, it don't matter how good you are. They can't pay you. Do you know what I mean? Cuts need to be made. So the bounce back was a tough one because it hit my confidence. I took it very personally, which you should not do. But I did. And it's hard not to. Not a lot of people understand it unless you've been through it, especially if you're a high achiever and you've always placed your worth on things like how well you do at work. And as most of us do, coming from homes we come from, like it's all about achievement. And if you've been told you're not working here anymore, you can't help but think, that's because I've done something wrong. And it's not because of that. It's because they don't have enough money for you. That's it. But I didn't know that at the time and I was really upset about it. So I was in a place where I was starting to desperation apply because I was like, I've got a mortgage. How am I going to pay my mortgage? I can't pay my mortgage. And then we might lose the house. And then we this. And you just start catastrophizing. And my boyfriend was literally like, what are you talking about? Like, our mortgage is not something you need to worry about because even if you were to leave tomorrow, they still have to pay you for 3 months of your contract. We will have enough to cut. It's not like we'd even like our mortgage could be paid with one of our salaries. You don't worry. Do you know what I mean? But you start panicking and worrying, and then you start desperation applying to everything you see, and then you feel worse when you don't get it and you get rejected because you did them a favor by applying and you're rejecting me as well. So am I just bad? And then that plays into you being less confident, and this is what I'm saying about I got humbled. So all of that like bossy bull stuff I was saying before was like on the floor.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean I was wrong for being like that. It was good, and I'm like that again now. But I'm just like that with a bit more strategy.
Strategy, but reality as well.
Exactly, and knowing when you need to pay your bills and do what you got to do that, and knowing when you're going for your dream job and the phase you're in. So I had a epiphany because I was at Afro Nation. And my friend who I was with we were talking the whole time we were there. Before we got there, I was really depressed about this whole job situation. This was obviously Afro Nation, and I had another holiday after. I was all but way before any of this stuff happened at work. So the whole time I was really upset about it. Then obviously Afro Nation was amazing. And on the last day after, we were just chilling at the beach, and she was like, right, let's talk about your job thing, because I know it's like gonna happen to you again when you go back home. And I was just like, okay. And then she's like, we're gonna make a list. We're going to make a list of all the things that your next job must have. And we're going to make a list of all the things that will be a nice to have. We're going to write them in different colours. And I was like, all right, cool, let's go. And we started writing. And then I was like, a nice to have is that I need it to be a place with like a lot of women. That's a nice to have. And she's like, I've listened to you all week. That's not a nice to have for you. You need that. Like, you've not stopped going on about it. And I was like, all right. So that ended up on my must-have list. And then we went through loads of things. I was like, I need there to be a good maternity policy. I need there to be good pay. I need there to be good training. And I need there to be all these things I needed. That shifted something for me in my brain. And I recommend everyone do that. When you're in your worst place of how am I going to pay my bills? This is so scary. Write down what you definitely need to have in your next job. And write down what you think is nice to have. And you'll realise that there's a lot more that you actually need than is nice to have. Anyway, I came back and I went on a site called HackerJob. Don't know if you've heard of it.
I have, I think.
It takes out the anxiety of applying for jobs for you because you put your profile on there and then the company contacts you.
Oh.
So when you're in a place where you're really depressed and you think really lowly of yourself, you use that and you're like, okay, so I put something on there. And I didn't get anything back. And I was like, this doesn't make sense because that profile looks really good. Why am I not getting anything back? So, due diligence, I messaged the person. I was like, hiya, the support team. I was like, I'm not getting anything back from my profile. And I'm pretty sure I should be. Like, I've written good stuff on there. Why am I not getting anything back? And he called me and he was like, okay, I would recommend trying this, this, and this. And I was like, okay. He was like, just update this, change your search to this, refine that. Little things. I was like, cool. 2 days later, I was about to get on a flight for another holiday and I got a message from somebody saying, hi, Maya, we've just seen your profile. We'd love to chat to you. are you available? And I was like, I'm going on holiday tomorrow, but I'm really available. It will just be like a phone call though. I'll be by the beach. Is that fine? And she was like, yeah, sure, no worries. Just an first call, introductory call. And we had a call and she really liked me and I work there now.
Okay. Wow. That was it.
So that's how I bounced back.
Hacker Job is
Hacker Job is a really good source, I'd say, because you get them contacting you and it's like they've read what you've written.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go through that whole explanation and why and this and that. They wouldn't come to you unless you sounded good.
Yeah.
And also, like, you know, again, a massive tool in tech, following up. It's not just in tech, this is everything. And I think personal training taught me this as well, because you've got to be quite aggressive. But follow up. People are busy. They forget your email. Like the amount of times I've forgotten things. I've seen it on a Monday and Tuesday morning. I'm like, shit. Like you need to follow up with people. Make things easier for people so they remember you and they know what they need to get back to you on. And that really helped me. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. You've definitely got a lot of resilience. And you've definitely had a lot of experience. This being like your third job, and I'm glad that you kind of spoke about it, because like I was saying before, like the redundancy thing's happening again with big tech. It's not as much as it was last year, and it's the big ones, Google, the Microsofts. Actually, I think I've got a few notes here. So this year, apparently, but this is global. I'm saying this right. So 104 tech companies have laid off about 28,000 workers in 2024, right? And I guess for them, it's like any other company. They have costs, right?
100%.
As well. And sometimes what happens, you know, COVID, so redundancies have always happened in tech, but COVID kind of created this thing where a lot of them got excited and they started thinking that the demand grew rapidly and they started hiring a lot. But not only that, tech changes a lot as well. So I saw an article on Bloomberg the other day where they were like, I can't remember, they were ditching another area of tech. I can't remember what it was. And they're like, okay, we're now hiring AI. That's the next thing. So that's what happens with tech. It just very quickly changes. You know, AI, I'm not saying that it will always be there, but right now it's hype, right?
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen is they're gonna hire a bunch, and then in the future they're gonna be like, well, we don't need this
you
many.
anymore,
Boom, and just go out. So it's something you got to definitely be mindful of. What I wanted to ask you, right? What do you think are like? You're going down the solution architect, but I'm sure that you must have, you know, this thought too, and I've been doing a bit of research. But what are like? Do you feel are like the most valuable tech skills for you to kind of like today? Because I know it will change again. Like today, what do you think are like the most, I guess, top tech skills that somebody should look towards? Like
languages or anything. Okay, I think
it could be area, languages.
Something really not spoken about enough with tech is knowing how to word what you're looking for in Google. Something as simple as that. When you get into tech, it's all about Googling it to find out what the answer is. And if it's not Google, ChatGPT. If it's not ChatGPT, some kind of search engine, reading, speaking to, whatever. You need to learn how you can frame your question to get the answer that you're looking for. Because you're in tech, even though it seems normal to us because we're in tech, the majority of the world are still not in tech. And therefore, what you're saying sounds really weird. You can be Googling something as easy to us, like, how do I, if I'm doing a for loop in JavaScript, how am I going to make this error not happen, for example? That's quite a simple thing with context, obviously, to understand. But Google isn't going to recognize that in the same way as what color are yellow dogs, for example. That's like a more of a normal request for Google, whereas coding questions are still quite strange. So there's not quite that refining for the searches as there are for every other area of things, I think. So knowing how to Google a question, or knowing how to Google something you need to know, and knowing how to use things like Stack Overflow and these like help sites and forums in tech is super, super valuable, because you're going to need all the help you can get. So knowing how to ask the right question to lead you to the Slack channel where everybody there knows what you're talking about is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And also I'd say in tech, it's a strange one because I haven't given answers of like hard, like learn this language or whatever, because like you say, that's almost pointless advice because everything changes so quickly. After you've got HTML, CSS and JavaScript, I would say from that point, you need to just be able to pick up languages as you need them. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like if you have that as a foundation, you should be able to.
Yeah.
So beyond that, in terms of soft skills, building rapport with people and learning how to manage egos is a massive thing in tech. And that's something that I'm still learning and still, learning to be less reactive, learning to take things less personal.
Yeah, you're telling me
learning
this,
to be a lot more like calm about things, because like I said, I'm coming from an environment where I'm the boss. I don't have to check with you if I need to go on holiday or do you know what I'm saying? So it's hard to then reframe yourself into a new environment where there are rules here. You can't speak to everybody like that, and you need to this, and you need and don't get me wrong, your ability to be so bold or all those things is great, but you need to also know how you to adhere and play things as they need to be played. So I'd say my advice is learn how to Google things or ask questions in an appropriate way, and also learn how to advocate for yourself as you need to.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, and I definitely want to touch more about like the pros and cons. But before that, because I did a bit of research, I want to just let obviously the audience know. Again, this is subject to, like we said, this thing changes so much. So AI is like the most popular. Before that, I think it was cloud computing. Before that, it was big data. Those are still relevant. Cloud is still relevant. Yeah. Big data is still relevant. It's not just going to go away. It's just the buzzwords. So when it's like a non-tech company, those non-tech companies become more focused on the buzzwords. So AI, like all the non-tech companies are like AI. So they kind of almost forget about cloud computing. And even though they're still relevant, people still be hiring about it. So that's how it kind of works. Like with ChatGPT, oh my gosh. Everybody wanted to do something.
Has made, our company included, their own version of ChatGPT.
Yeah. So in terms of the research that I found, so AI goes out saying AI is going to probably be, it will always be there, I think. There's obviously different artificial intelligence, which I'm not going to go into. This is not what this episode is about. But I was doing some research, right, on, so CW Jobs was like talking about like most valuable tech skills and giving like average salaries, right? Again, subject to change. So please, people, take this as a pinch of salt and do your own research. But AI was one of the most valuable tech skills. Average salary of 63,000. They were saying big data, 67,000. Cloud computing, 57,000. Cybersecurity, which I think is going to become way more important,
for sure.
Especially if we, if you think about this whole let's say metaverse, let's say that does happen, gonna need more security.
Totally. Everything is so,
it's crazy. They say that like war is now going to become more cyber wars, actually.
I was on a call today about how, I can't talk about it in that much detail, but something could be used, and there was a debate whether it's going to be used, just the hardware, because the hardware comes from China. And because hardware from China has got inbuilt hard code, which says that any data you collect, you must give back to the government.
Okay.
There's going to be a conversation about, even if it's just the hardware, so it's nothing to do with the app or the software or anything. It's not operating system, nothing on there, but the hardware alone coming from certain countries, not just China, anywhere else that is deemed, dangerous from a cyber perspective, we might not be able to use that. And have our own stuff on it. So then what does that mean for iPhones, for all the things that we rely on, our tablets, our everything? How is that going to be? Is there going to be more taxes on there? Is there going to be sanctions on how we use it? Is that going to become that? And then it's a political thing. And then before you know it,
it is becoming a political thing. It is like a big one. And I've seen it happen.
Shout out Messiah, everything's political.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a good, we'll talk about that. I listened to that. That was a good one. I need to finish that one. That was a good episode. Everything is becoming political. And this is the thing with technology, right? Now what I'm seeing with it, and, cybersecurity especially, it was, the UK banned Huawei, if I'm saying it right. That's who they banned, right? Chinese company, right? And it was funny because when I was in Dubai, and we were looking at phones, right? We were speaking to the person in there, and they were telling us, they reconfirmed it, like, basically this is your iPhone, you can't get this because that won't work in the UK. So it's a proper big thing. It's I don't know if you watched the film. What's this film? The Obama's film. That's what it basically was about. I don't want to ruin the whole film, but there was a lot of emphasis on cybersecurity, right? So very, very interesting. Anyway, so the other areas, so I've got like top 7. DevOps, 6,000-7,000. Project management, which is a can be non-technical role, 57,000. UI UX design, which I've worked with. I'm sure you worked with a lot of UI UX design. 72,000. Business analysis, which we've both done, and then product management as well. So business analysis was 57,500, and then product management 67,500. So a lot of areas. That's the thing with tech. There's so many different areas that you can get in. So it's amazing. So what do you believe are like the pros and cons of working in the tech industry through your experience?
Pro is money and the speed at which you can learn, because you are constantly upskilling and you're needed to be good at things. So they will pay for you to go on the training and do it because you're here, let's go. The con is how fast paced it is. You're never really comfortable and set. I wouldn't recommend anybody feel like they're going to stay somewhere for a long time, because you just never know what's going to happen. It's a changing landscape. It is still very, for me as a negative, it is still very male dominated. I really struggle with that. And I do feel like it is still very archaic in the sense of it's still white male dominated in the senior positions. Yes, there's a lot of junior people of colour in most tech companies, but that's not what we mean by representation. Representation means people of all backgrounds in higher positions. When I start seeing that in tech, then cool, I can say, cool, we're representing, but we're not at the moment. So those are the cons for me. And also, you're a number. Like, a lot of my friends work in roles and fields and industries or sectors of life where their job really has purpose and really matters. And I'm not saying that you can't find a job in tech that does. They do exist. However, you are likely to come across a job and work in a job at some point in tech where it isn't that meaningful. And so that's a pro from the perspective of, like, you can clock out at 5:30 and no one's going to die. But it's a con if you do go to work wanting to have purpose and really make a difference to life. You aren't doing that. In my experience, the jobs I've had working in tech, I'm not saying it's impossible to do that, but just the ones that you on a whole are available to you. So that I'm at this stage of my life, at this phase, is starting to become a bit of an issue for me. Like, I do want to work somewhere where I'm making a difference to real things in a real perspective. So I guess that's something I would class as a con.
So you're talking about like it not being diverse. Can you expand a bit more about, like, I guess, how you navigating that? I'm
still learning, if I'm honest with you, because it don't go down well when you tell them that it's not very
Do you
diverse.
tell them that?
Sometimes. But when I wasn't as switched on as I am now, I said...
You're just coming in like, this is not diverse. What y'all do?
Coming in, clapping my hands saying, how much you getting paid? Where's all the black people? Obviously, that wasn't going down well. But it's the thing, the navigating is, I think, almost harder because you are navigating people who are diverse, being the ones who are telling you to not cause a problem here. So it's not the white people that I'm having to fight with too tough about this, because they are all open to wanting to be inclusive and EDI and let's have a group and, should we make a Slack group about that? They love it. But it's my own people who are looking at me sideways when I'm saying, guys, they shouldn't be confusing you for different people just because you're the same background. Or we shouldn't be having to repeat and constantly correct people on how to say your name. Or we shouldn't be having to explain why you might eat that at lunch, and you shouldn't have to answer every day, what have you got for lunch today? Like, these are things, microaggressions, that shouldn't have to be here. And you lot are the ones at me saying, why are you making a problem about that? Don't say that. Like, that's what is hard, because I'm very vocal, as you can see. So for vocal people, it can be hard if you choose to care. Or then there's other people who are just like, that's not my business. I'm here to get my check and off I go. And I have no judgment about that either. But I'm just giving you different ways people navigate it. So you can be like me, who shouts about it and then gets upset when nobody wants to hear. Or you can be someone who's just like, yeah, that's your business. I'm off. I've got my check and off I go. I personally can't do that. But it's a navigating option.
I mean, someone's got to fight the good fight for there to be any change, right? If we all
but you've also got to not wear yourself out in the process. And if you are someone who gets irritated and upset and sensitive about this topic because it means something to you, then you are likely to get tired and angry and then just be of no use to anyone. So it's a balance.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think as well, like, honestly, it's the way I see some stuff, right? It's like how you say the personal stuff, right? I think when you're going on any kind of mission, you almost have to like take yourself out of the experience of what you're trying to do and almost not become cold, but it's like an out of body experience, right? You got to do what you got to do, but at the same time, you're on your mission, right?
That's it.
Don't care what anybody's got to say. They can have whatever feelings. They're always going to have their feelings. But you've got your mission and you're going to go for that.
Yeah, you got to have support around you.
Yeah, 100%.
Have your people that you can go to and you can talk about this with, who are going to get it. And I always say find friends at work. And people look, that's a bit, I guess, controversial to say because everyone's like, well, no one's here to be your friend and all that kind of stuff. And I hear that. But me personally, you asked about navigating. The way that I've navigated every single tech role I've had is by having a group of people that are my people. And I know you lot are cool and we're good.
Yeah. It's important. Mad. So I guess if you were to try to get a tech role in the industry today, what would your approach be? Would it be different?
LinkedIn more than I did before. I'll be more on LinkedIn. I'll be more on LinkedIn messaging people. And I would be more intentional about the roles I'm applying to. I wouldn't just apply to anything because then you can get any job. I would be very clear on the job that I want and be more specific and refine my applications to just those kind of jobs.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. What do you think the future of the tech industry is going to be, in your opinion?
I think it will slowly but surely become more normal because it is like a natural trajectory for the generation that we're in and the generation younger than us, because everyone actually has to use tech every day now. There's no getting around it. So it's going to become more normal to work in tech in some capacity. I think the roles that are non-specifically like developers, coders, will open up more. So there'll be more product managers, there'll be more business analysts, there'll be these kind of roles will get more filled out. And I think AI, yes, will be a part of it, but it's just one in the cycle of how many other things will be here. So just be ever changing and more of the same. I'm hoping it will get more diverse and there'll be more people in positions of power.
You're not going to not let that happen.
Nah,
right?
but I mean, that's my big hope.
Man. Okay, so let's talk about your podcast. You got a podcast, right?
I do.
Maya's Minutes podcast. Can you tell us what it's about? What's the latest episode that you've had as well?
So I got bored of listening to podcasts where I was talking about something I really care about with someone I really like, and then that'd be the end of the episode. And that was it. It was like a tip of the iceberg, or like a bite, and I want the meal. And so I was like, there are topics which are really important that we aren't talking about enough. Why is there not more on these topics than just one episode? And that episode just says the same thing, really. So I had ideas of topics that are really important to me. I've done 6 series, recorded 7, but released 6. And each topic is a different topic. And each topic has got one expert in that topic on the series. So, for example, series 1 was about periods, cycle tracking, contraception, and postpartum. And they aren't spoken about enough. Majority of women I've ever come across in my life have had some kind of issue whilst being on contraception, and nobody talks about it. Nobody helps. Nobody knows. Nobody knows about tracking your cycle and what your periods should be like. Nobody knows this information, and why not? So I got an expert who's my friend, who is a fertility awareness teacher. and we sat on my podcast.
Oh, that's
Yep,
interesting.
and we did a whole series on periods, cycle tracking your cycle to get pregnant, tracking your cycle to avoid pregnancy, contraception. What was the inception of the pill? Where did that come from? How do we know? Like all of that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into it too much because you have to listen to the podcast.
You have to listen to the podcast.
But yes, that was an episode. That was like series 1. Series 2, I did with Basayo. She's all into politics. That's what she does. We broke down politics. Why isn't it accessible to people like us? Why don't we vote? Why don't we understand what this means? What does the cost of living crisis really mean? What is the middle class? How do classes affect things? That kind of stuff. Series 3 was about marriages and interracial marriages and stuff like that. Series 4 was about mental health and why there is mental health in our homes, but people like us don't really talk about it, and it's not really spoken about, and it's not okay. And why is that? Why is a black man who might be hearing voices called psychotic and sectioned, but a white woman who's hearing voices just under the weather or needs to go to rehab? Looking at these differences. And series 5 was about fitness, and I did that with my friend Marinike, or M Class Fitness, and we spoke about fitness industry, a lot more of what we spoke about today. And then series 6 was about abortion and the impact of abortion and the lack of conversation around it and what impact that has. And that was with my friend Miranda, who is a fitness influencer, but she went really viral for talking about abortions that she's had. And we spoke about it in a really, I think, healthy way. So it's hard for me to sum up what my podcast is about because every single series is different. But what my tagline is, it's important things that are important to me and my people. And when I say my people, I mean everyone who's ever experienced any of those things. They're my people. Do you know what I mean? And we aren't normally talking about this stuff.
100% we aren't. Still talking about, you know what? I think I've shaded what
People
we talk about enough. No, I don't shade people. No, I never shade people because I feel like people should do what they got to do. But I also think that we need to have diversity of conversation, which is why I support what you're doing and support your conversation. Diversity of conversation.
And there's room for all of us.
100%.
But
yes.
we're told we're not.
No.
And that's why it's harder. And that's when you said to me when I first got you, like, how's the podcast going?
Yeah.
I get upset a lot because I'm like, why am I not getting the exposure or the views or the listens or the downloads or the subscribes? Why am I not getting that? Why? But there's a girl over there who's talking about who should pay for the first date and she's getting it.
It's so funny you said that because I was going to say the exact same thing.
And it's not that I'm angry at that girl. I'm happy she's getting her bag. That's brilliant, sis. I'm really happy for you. However, if we're talking about importance, personally, I think what's important to us in this climate, in this now, is for us to be talking about why we shouldn't just be on contraception when nobody tells us what it's about. I think that's a more important thing to talk about. But I'm not going to get that same level of clicks and all the rest of it. And I get it. If people want to escape, they don't want to hear like heavy stuff and whatever. But there comes a point where you need to talk about the heavy stuff.
But you know the way I see it, right? I think that the way I look at it is I look at it as like value, right? So I think things of value will shine through and will be long lasting. It's no different to books, right? Maybe the people that wrote this, now I think we're now in a day of like bestsellers. In one day. But a lot of the
it's
other
definitely a marathon and a race.
Exactly. It's a marathon. Things of value. I think the conversations you're having are, to me, you can listen to it in 5 years and it's still going to be relevant.
And that's another big thing of the podcast. I didn't ever make a topic and I'll never record a topic. The next one's going to be with Kia from Pennies to Pounds.
Yes, shout out Kia. Been on podcast, friend of the podcast. Yeah,
exactly. And I actually found you from listening to hers.
Yes, you say
we did a series on finance.
Okay,
and women
amazing.
and having financial freedom and why women don't know about financial literacy. Massively important again. And whilst it is a marathon and not a race, it's very hard for the runner.
It is.
You are
it's
tired.
Tired. Yeah, we're tired.
That's it. We're tired. And I want someone to give me a drink. I'm running and I'm just, give me a drink. Give me a bring-in. Do you know what I mean? Give me a sponsorship.
Yeah.
But it's not like that. And I know that. But it would be great if people could help on the journey with the supporting of the diverse conversations and not just...
the same one. But you know what? I'll tell you the truth, right? Because I've got to be honest here in terms of what I see. I think even the audience are tired of those conversations.
Agreed.
And I see it a lot, to be honest. You know, I see comments like, even when some of my stuff get posts on Made You Think and stuff like that, a lot of the comments are, we need more content like this, more content. And then when I see the other stuff, people are like, we're still talking about this in 2024.
I hear that.
Yeah.
And those comments are lovely. However, make it easier for us then. Do you know what I mean?
Why is like, you know what? I'm calling out people.
Make
like,
it easier for us. Give us the flowers we deserve. Give us the funding. Give us the resources.
Yeah.
Give us the help. And then you won't have to wait for more of this content because it'll be there.
It's true. It's. I don't even want to have a theory. I have a slight theory. So, who gets the funding? Who do you think gets the funding? The entertainment, right? Entertainment type content gets the funding, right? Because I feel like I'm not even saying them specifically, but just it's always been that way within the Black community. Entertainment has always gotten the funding, right? Podcast is just a new spear. Before footballers, basketballers, whatever, and musicians, entertainment was always our face.
There's a reason NHS people who work in the NHS are paid so little, but then footballers and whatever are paid so much. Yes, agree. However, we are in the free world now where you have free thought, and there are things like podcasts and there are things like documentaries and all whatever you know our topics are. So you've got to be the one to choose to listen to them and choose to tune in. Do you know what I mean? Like, choose to pick up a book in this conversation. Not to say that, you know, our conversations are the same as like brilliant books. However, in comparison to other conversations.
To me, it's like a live book.
Yeah.
It's like you're listening to it as it's happening.
Absolutely. And content-wise, value, like you said. And it takes a bit of retraining because, you know, you might be so used to just slapping on something where you're just zoning out and giving. And I do it myself. Like, I love watching Love Island. Do you know what I mean? I'm not watching Love Island thinking this is adding value, particularly to me, but it's zoning out, relaxing, reality TV, whatever. But then I also know I'm going to counteract that with listening to an audiobook or reading an actual book that's actually going to teach me. Do you know what I mean? And I think there needs to be some independent thought among us now where we do that for ourselves. We can't be handed it. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
We've relied on the handing a lot of information, I mean. And so it's like, whilst it's accessible and funded and pretty and glittery to listen to all of these other things and avenues, switch on to these other ones because you're going to get more value out of it. And then you won't have to comment saying, where's all this content? Because it's on your feed.
Yeah. Facts. Well, you know what's going to happen? Look.
Yeah, I know.
Don't worry. That's all I'm going to say. Don't worry, because the way I see it, I'm seeing it go that way. Yeah. That's why I'm saying don't worry. Okay. Like, I think the thing is, right?
I thought you were going to say, I know, you know what's going to happen, you're going to get dragged. And I was going to
No.
Nah.
I don't think you will get dragged. At the end of the day, it's coming from a good place. What we're doing, like we're saying, we're having diverse conversations. We're trying to help people. And I think at the end of the day, like I said, these kind of conversations live forever. They don't die.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, it's important. Like I remember I had when I went to UK Black Business Week, I think I said it on one episode, I had somebody come up to me talking to me about an episode they listened a year prior.
Yeah.
You know? And they had remembered my face. So this is the thing, like when it's of value, it will stick around.
We fall into the trap. I'm very guilty of it myself, and I'm trying my best. That's one of my big goals for this year, to not fall into it. But because we are put against these people who do have the funding, let's say, let's be the blanket term, and the eyes and the views and all of this, where we will start trying to compete. But because our stuff is different, diverse, value in a different way, we can't manufacture our stuff as quickly as that. It's not based on a trend or a clickbait topic right now. So if we try and do that, the value of us stuff goes down. And so we then start doing things at a rush and desperation and, oh shit, someone's just posted, I need to post something as well. And that's how you then fall into the trap of, and I'm really guilty of it myself. I'm really trying not to. Don't know if you felt it yourself as well.
I always feel the pressure. I always feel the pressure, but I think you just got to try and stay in your own lane. Exactly. And it's not that it's not easy. Of course it's not. We all want it now, right? Who doesn't want it now?
Honestly.
If you give it to me now, am I going to say, no, I'm taking it.
Exactly.
I'm taking it. But yeah, it's just a journey, right? It's a journey. It's our own journey that we're going to take. And I believe that I think for people anyway to transition, it has to be there.
Yeah.
So that's step one. It's the information's there. We're going to do our thing. We're going to keep having these conversations, and then we'll let people come over, join the conversation.
Yeah,
You know,
sounds good.
yeah. So, what do you have, I guess, planned for yourself?
For life or for this evening or?
You want me to be that specific?
No, okay, plans. All right, plans are Maya's Minutes.
Yeah.
Massive focus for me. Maya's Minutes, please check out the series that are there already and come back to me with ideas, thoughts, all of the rest of it. I'm building Maya's Minutes. That's going to get bigger. That's my number one plan. Life, career, I want to get into solution architecture, as I told you. I'm on the path to it, but I'm gonna keep trudging along. And enjoyment, man. Like, I've realized that contentment and peace and happiness is the most important thing. I listened to the episode you done recently, or your most recent episode rather, and the lady on it, Antoinette, was saying how she's really good at knowing when she needs rest, and you were congratulating her, and I agree, that's a massive skill to have, and I still need to work on that because I just get an burst of energy and I'm like, go, ruin it, burn myself out, and then I have to pick myself up again. Whereas if you're on an even keel, where she said she's like got to December and she just kept working, but the rate was lower, I need to master that. I'm very all or nothing, and I need to be a bit more mid. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna try that mid thing this year more.
Amazing. Look, like I said, we could definitely have another episode in the future,
sure.
and I really appreciate you, sharing your journey. I think it's a very unique journey, especially like I said, you decided not to go to university, business owner, then you transition into tech is very admirable. And you're kind of starting a side business on the side as well, and you're not going down an easy path, but I think it's going to be a more rewarding path. That's what I kind of see it as. So yeah, we definitely appreciate you coming to the podcast. I guess, where can people find you if they obviously want to follow the podcast, want to follow you, and stuff like that?
So thank you for your words, by the way. I'll be listening to that on repeat.
Yeah.
So Maya's Minutes is available wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm not visuals, just audio, because for me a podcast is very much an on the go thing. I cycle everywhere, and so having podcasts in my ears is what I want rather than visuals. But when I get the money up, visuals will be coming. And that's everywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, everywhere. And on the Instagram, Maya's Minutes Podcast. And that's where you can find me.
Yeah. Amazing, Maya. I guess, do you have any final words for the watchers and listeners?
I would say continue on whatever journey you're on. Always be intentional about what you do. And remember when you used to wish for what you now have.
You practiced that now,
I
kidding?
didn't. Honestly,
That's a bar, though.
It's not my words, but I live by that for sure.
Okay,
I'm
all
like,
right.
yeah.
I love that.
We get so caught up.
Yeah.
We're just like, I want this. I'm guilty. Like I said, I'm always like, I want it now, like you said.
Yeah.
But I used to wish for all, like, to have 6 series out of my podcast and to have conversations like this with people like you. Like, SAVVYWALLET's a big deal. I'm like, rah, it's me on SAVVYWALLET.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, this is,
Crazy.
Remember when this was a biggie to you and you're living it right now. So don't let yourself get robbed of that joy. Yeah,
I agree. I think it's important to enjoy the journey, and I always do look back at like some parts, like, wow, that was fun. Yes, there was a bit of struggles, but that was kind of fun. Absolutely. The struggle was a little bit like, because like when it gets to the end of the path, you're like, okay, was that it? Literally, you didn't enjoy everything else up to that. I think it's important. Agree. Yeah. Appreciate you coming onto the podcast, Maya. Appreciate you watching and listening to this episode of the podcast, and we'll see you next week's episode.